This video lesson is on federalism. Federalism is one of the 6 basic principles of the Constitution. Federalism is a division of power between national and state governments. What is federalism and why was it chosen by the framers? The Constitution provides for a division of powers, assigning certain powers to the national government and certain powers to the states. The framers were dedicated to the concept of limited government. They were convinced that governmental power poses a threat to individual liberty, that the exercise of governmental power must be restrained, and that to restrict governmental power, as federalism does, is to curb it, and so prevent its abuse. What powers are delegated to and denied to the national government? The national government is a government of delegated powers, meaning that it only has those powers delegated, meaning granted to it, in the Constitution. There are 3 types of delegated powers. The express powers are those found directly within the Constitution. The implied powers are not expressly stated in the Constitution, but are reasonably suggested or implied by the express powers. The inherent powers belong to the national government because it is the government of a sovereign state within the world community. There are few inherent powers, with an example being the national government's ability to regulate immigration. Some powers, such as the power to prohibit the freedom of religion, speech, press, or assembly, are expressly denied to the national government in the Constitution. Some powers are denied to the national government because the federal system does not intend the national government to carry out those functions. What powers are reserved for and denied to the states? The 10th Amendment declares that the states are governments of reserved powers. The reserved powers are those powers that the Constitution does not grant to the national government and does not, at the same time, deny to the states. Just as the Constitution denies many powers to the national government, it also denies many powers to the states. Powers denied to the states are denied in much the same way that powers are denied to the national government, both expressly and inherently. What exclusive powers does the national government have, and what concurrent powers does it share with the states? Powers that can be exercised by the national government alone are known as the exclusive or delegated powers. Examples of the exclusive powers are the national government's power to coin money, to make treaties with foreign states, and to lay duties, meaning taxes, on imports. The concurrent powers are those powers that both the national government and the states possess and exercise. Some of the concurrent powers include the power to levy and collect taxes, to define crimes and set punishments for them, and to claim private property for public use. What place do local governments have in the federal system? There are more than 87,000 units of local government in the United States today. Each of these local units is located within one of the 50 states. Each state has created these units through its constitution and laws. Local governments, since they are created by the states, are exercising state law through their own means. How does the Constitution function as the supreme law of the land? The Supremacy Clause in the Constitution establishes the Constitution and United States laws as the supreme law of the land. What obligations does the Constitution place on the nation for the welfare of the states? The Constitution requires the national government to guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government. The national government is also required to provide defense of the states from foreign invasion and aid in protecting against domestic violence in the states. The national government is constitutionally bound to respect the territorial integrity of each of the states. The major disaster process. Step 1. Local government responds. If overwhelmed, turns to the state for assistance. Step 2. The state responds with state resources, such as the National Guard and state agencies. Step 3. Damage assessment by local, state, federal, and volunteer organizations. Step 4. A major disaster declaration is requested by the governor based on damage assessment. Step 5. FEMA evaluates the request and recommends action to the White House. Step 6. The President approves the request or FEMA informs the governor it has been denied. How are new states admitted to the Union? Only Congress has the power to admit new states to the Union. Congress first passes an enabling act, an act directing the people of the territory to frame a proposed state constitution. If Congress agrees to statehood, after reviewing the submitted state constitution, it passes an act of admission, an act creating the new state. What are the many and growing areas of cooperative federalism? Even though the basis of federalism is the division of powers between levels of government, there is still much cooperation between them. Grants and aid programs are grants of federal money or other resources to the states and/or their cities, counties, and other local units. Revenue sharing is the idea of giving an annual share of federal tax revenues to the states and their local governments. Categorical grants are made for some specific, closely defined purpose, such as school lunch programs, or the construction of airports or water treatment plants. There are usually conditions or strings attached to regulate the use of these funds. Block grants are portions of money allocated to states to use for broader purposes such as healthcare, social services, or welfare. Block grants often are granted with fewer strings attached. Project grants are provided to states, localities, and sometimes private agencies that apply for them. They are used for a variety of purposes, ranging from medical research to job training and employment programs. Why do states make interstate compacts? States with the consent of Congress enter into interstate compacts. These compacts include sharing law enforcement data to resource development and conservation. What is the purpose of the Full Faith and Credit Clause? The Full Faith and Credit Clause of the Constitution ensures that states recognize the laws, documents, and court proceedings of the other states. What is extradition? Extradition is the legal process of returning a fugitive back to the state where the crime was committed. What is the purpose of the Privileges and Immunities Clause? The Privileges and Immunities Clause provides that no state can draw unreasonable distinctions between its own residents and people who happen to live in other states. However, states can draw reasonable distinctions between its own residents and those of other states, such as charging out-of-state residents higher tuition for state universities than in-state residents.